Hi everyone, I'm Tracey West and I'm so excited to be back at the Maplewood South Orange Book Festival. I can still remember coming to the very first one and it's always a lot of fun. I'm sorry I'm not going to be seeing everyone in person today, but I'm going to show you a trick for coming up with story ideas. And it's a little thing that I like to call the say what method of coming up with story ideas. I have written more than 300 books for kids, including the New York Times bestselling series Dragon Masters. And I'm happy to announce that book number 17, Fortress of the Stone Dragon, is going to be coming out on October 6th. So when you have written more than 300 books, you get asked, how do you come up with all those story ideas? And a lot of times if you're asked in school to write a story, you might get stuck. And when people ask me how I came up with my ideas, I wasn't really sure how to answer that question. And then when I really thought about it, I figured out that I had a method that I was using. So I'm going to show you today how that works. And after I show you, we're going to come up with story ideas together. So you might want to get a pen and some paper or a device that you can write with, just so you're ready when that happens. And if you want, you can pause the video right now and go get what you need and come back. Are you ready? Okay, let's start. So the first thing I do when I start coming up with ideas for a story, and this might seem obvious, but I ask myself, what do I want to write about? So to start, I say, what? Now, this what might seem really hard, but it's not so hard. The best stories are written about things that we know something about, things that we care about, things that we're interested in, or even things that have happened to us. So your what is just listing some of those things. For example, in my case, things I know about include fairies and dragons. Things I care about include my dogs, my friends, and my family. Something I'm interested in and would love to know more about, for example, is the country of Iceland. So Iceland goes on the list. And then when I think about things that have happened to me that might be fun to make up a story about, I don't have to think too far in the past. A couple of days ago, I was harvesting pumpkins in my garden, and I picked up a really big pumpkin, and underneath there was a baby snake. Yeah, I sort of, well, we'll talk more about that later, but that's definitely something that I think there could be a story there. So I'm going to add baby snake under a pumpkin to my list. So now I asked what, and I have a list of a whole bunch of things that I might want to write a story about. So what I do is I look at that list, and something usually will jump out. Or I'll be really drawn to something and I'll say, you know what, I think this is what I feel like writing about. So for today's demonstration, I'm going to pick fairies from my list. Fairies were the subject of my first book series, the first series I ever wrote, called Pixie Tricks. So now you've got your what, but that's still, fairies by itself is not a story idea. We need to come up with an idea for a story. So I ask another what question. And the next question I asked is, what if? So I ask what if, and I just see what kind of thoughts pop up into my head. Now, before you ask what if, you could do some research. For a subject of fairies, you could read fairy tales, folk tales, or you could just kind of let your imagination run wild. When I came up with the idea for Pixie Tricks, I already knew a lot about fairies. I was really interested in fairies, and I had read a lot of fairy folk tales and folklore. And from that, I knew that there is a world where fairies live that is separate from the human world. Based on that, my first what if was, well, what if a girl or a boy visits the fairy world? I also knew that fairies like to cause trouble a lot. So another what if became, what if fairies escaped from the fairy world into the human world and caused trouble? And then I used my imagination to come up with other ideas that were not necessarily based on, myths or legends. So I thought, what if there is a school for fairies? Or what if a bunch of fairies go on an adventure in a mall or someplace in the human world? And then when you have your what ifs, and you don't have to have too many what ifs, but when you have a few what ifs, you look at your what if list, and it's the same thing as before. I looked at my what if list, and I thought, what really seems interesting? What would I want to read about if somebody wrote a story about this? And so for Pixie Tricks, I chose the what if of, what if fairies escaped into our world and caused trouble? Now you might think that I'm done. That's a story idea. Fairies escape into the human world and cause trouble. But I asked myself one more what question, and that question is, what next? Because if something else can't happen next, then there might not be enough of an idea for a story there. So to do that, I think about my what if, and then I imagine all the things that could happen. So fairies have escaped into the human world and they're causing trouble. What if they take over the world? What if the humans and the fairies have a battle? What if a human girl finds out it's her job to capture all the fairies and send them back to their world? Well, at last, what next about a girl whose job it is to trick the fairies and send them back to the fairy world is the idea that I chose for Pixie Tricks. And in Pixie Tricks, there's a young girl named Violet who is chosen to track the fairies, and she gets help from a royal pixie tricker named Sprite and her own cousin whose name is Leon. After you think of what's next, that's your basic story idea. So my basic story idea was fairies have escaped into the human world and a human girl has been chosen to try to trick them and send them back. And then that's the idea. And then I can sit down and create characters and come up with plots and problems for the characters to solve. But it all comes from your basic idea. So that basic Pixie Tricks idea became an 8-book series. And I'm really happy to say that the Pixie Tricks books are coming back in December, starting with book number 1. The text is updated and they have brand new, beautiful art by Xavier Bonnet. Check out this cover. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. And the cover was designed by Sarah Devojak, and that'll be out in December. And I hope you check it out if you are interested in fairies like I am. To recap, I created a whole book series by asking myself 3 questions. What if, and what next? So how about we give it a try? I know we can't interact today, but we can sort of work through this at the same time. So let's do this together. If you have a pencil and paper, that would be great, or something you can write with. Again, don't worry about it. Pause if you need to go get something and come back. I'll be here. The first thing we should do, write the word what on top of your paper and think of some whats that you want to write about. So remember, a what can be something you know about, something you really care about, something that interests you, or something that happened to you. I mean, I'm sure there's other whats, but those are the basic ones. Right now, I think I'm going to pick one of the answers before, and that is finding a baby snake under a pumpkin. So that's my what. So now look at your list of whats and pick one. Don't think too hard about it because this isn't an assignment. This is just a fun exercise we're doing. Pick one of your whats and circle it. And now it's time to think of some what ifs. So write what if on your paper. Let's see. For in my case, I'll show you my thought process. On the day that I found the baby snake under the pumpkin, I put down the pumpkin and I ran away because I I don't like snakes, even cute baby ones, but I do like spiders and I do like bats. Anyway. But what if something else had happened that day? Because me running away is not too much of a story. What if something magical had happened, maybe? So my what ifs might be, what if the mother snake showed up, a big snake? What if the baby snake crawled right up my leg? Ah! What if the baby snake started talking to me? What if a fairy popped out of the pumpkin? So those are my what ifs. But now you look at your what and write down some of yours. You can think of something magical that could happen, or something scary, or something adventurous, or something mysterious. Those are all some ways that you can come up with different what ifs. So I thought a magical thing would be the baby snake talking, but a scary thing would be a giant mother snake showing up. So you can go scary, whatever you like. And this is sort of an extra tip, but think about what you like to read. If you like to read spooky stories, then think of a spooky what if. If you like to read magical stories, think of a magical what if, because chances are if you like to read about it, you're going to really like writing in that style too. Okay, do you have your what ifs written down? Great. Now pick one. Again, don't think too much about it. Just look over your list. Pick one that you think you might have fun writing about. Did you pick it? Okay, great. Circle it. I don't think I would want to write a story about a giant mother snake, so I'm going to pick what if the baby snake could talk. I'm going to pick a magical what if. All right, so now that you have your what if, it's time to think about what next. So write what next on your paper. And now kind of use your imagination and play out the action in your mind. So I'm going to imagine I picked up the pumpkin and I see the baby snake, and the baby snake says, "Hello, why are you bothering me?" Or something. I don't know what the baby snake would say, but that's a possibility. So what would happen next? Well, I might start asking the baby snake some questions like, why can you talk? And maybe the baby snake would say something like, well, I haven't always been a snake. I'm an elf, and a magician put me under this enchantment, and now I'm a snake. So, I sort of like that. So that is the what next I'm going to go with. And you can think of different what next, and really it's just sort of about seeing where the story would go. What would be a logical or a fun or or a scary or a magical thing that could happen next. So pause the video if you need to really think about it, and then write down your what next. Do you have your what next? Congratulations! You have a story idea. Now you are ready to start creating characters, strengthening your plot, and writing your story. And I hope that you will take the story idea you came up with today and write a story about it. So the next time you need to write a story and you're stuck coming up with an idea, remember to say what and ask yourself what if, and what next. I hope you had fun learning my trick for coming up with story ideas. If you follow me on social media, you'll find more videos, including Dragon Masters book talks. You can keep up with the latest Dragon Masters news and participate in contacts. You can also message me and let me know if you wrote a story based on our workshop today. Also, please remember that Dragon Master 17, Fortress of the Stone Dragon, will be out on October 6th. And Pixie Tricks number 1, Sprite Secret, will be out in December. Thanks again, everyone, so much for joining me today. I'm sorry I'm not seeing you in person, but I hope you enjoyed this, and please enjoy the rest of the festival.